All right, everybody. It's the Combatcast. The man they call Dave Chevarooney. We're going to talk some UFC London from this past weekend. We're going to talk 277, a little Dana White Contender Series. And first, let's start this video. Are you a fan of pro wrestling, comedy, and combat sports? Then we have the podcast for you because we cover that and much, much more.
Do you like to debate with your friends? Do we have the perfect segment for you? It's the 531, where we take any given subject, break it down to a top 5. From there, we debate it down to 3, and then into that number 1 spot.
If you want to get a hold of us, find us on our social medias. Search Working Fans Podcast on any major social media platform. And if you want to find the podcast, search for us on any major podcast platform, as well as YouTube.
Working Fans Podcast. We put in the work so you don't have to.
Everybody, we're ready to talk some fights. Chevy, tell me what we got coming up.
All right, August 6th, we're going to be previewing UFC Fight Night Santos versus Hill. We'll probably talk about Jake Paul's fight a little bit. And then August 13th, UFC Fight Night Vera versus Cruz. And then we'll be on to the next UFC pay-per-view on August 20th, UFC 278 Usman versus Edwards 2. And I am very excited for that matchup.
Yeah, I was trying to think about that today. I actually looked that up today. So they fought before one time.
Right, I believe it was, a long time ago now, but it was on Usman's come up, and he might have been the last person to beat Leon.
Yeah, you're right, because he went on that win streak for a long time. And since the only thing he's had besides winning was like that one no contest, I believe. I think there was an eye poke or something.
Right, with Bilal Muhammad, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about Dana White Contender Series first. Joe Pfeiffer got a contract last night. He was the only one, and Dana didn't seem too happy about it.
Right. I didn't watch the Contender Series because it was the first one of this season. I forgot it was on, but I saw a clip. Dana did a angry rant and mic drop basically for next week's fighters about if they want a contract, they better come out looking for finishes. They better be excited to be there and be fighting for the company. And look at Joe Pfeiffer because he's the only one that got a contract. And then he just walked away from Lorosenko.
Well, that's Dana though, right? For years, you go back to that promo he cut on the original Ultimate Fighter, where it's like, you want to be a fucking fighter. And he says all this shit to these guys.
Legendary.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
He knows how to drill home a point for sure.
Yeah. He's definitely one of those guys. He can rally. He can do that rally of pick up your balls and let's go. Yeah, it's interesting to see sometimes. I'm trying to think. There was I saw a clip the other day too, where I think people were asking him about paying fighters, which obviously we wanted to pay the fighters more, but he had paid $250,000 or something to a friend for his birthday. And his response was like, hey, quit crying on fucking line. I'll do what the fuck I want with my own fucking money. It's just like, all right. Yeah. What are you saying to that? It's like,
Yeah, he's going to do what he's going to do. He's just a very successful man, and he's not used to taking people's bullshit anymore, and when you get to that level, you kind of get away without having to do it. So he doesn't tolerate the online shit. You used to see him go back and forth with people online a lot, and you don't really see that anymore.
Yeah, he's toned it down, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into this UFC London card. I didn't get to see all the fights, but honestly, some of these results made me sad because some of the people I really wanted to win didn't win. Let's start off with do you want to any undercard fights you want to mention here?
No, it was all decisions except for our one of our fan favorite fighters, Makwan Amirkhani, Mr. Finland. he got TKO'd. He's doing pretty good early on in the fight. Ended up getting taken to the ground and he just withered under. I can't even remember his opponent's name now, but he withered under his opponent's ground and pound. He was told to defend himself, and he couldn't get up, and he ended up getting TKO'd. And I think he had one win in like his last 5 or 6 fights. He's not popular enough to stick around. I'm going to assume he's going to be off the roster pretty soon.
I mean, he did win his last fight, so that could buy him some time. But yeah, it's not looking good for Makhan. He lost to Jonathan Pierce.
Jonathan Pierce, yes, that's who it was.
All right. Zameer and Paul Craig open up this card. I did not see this fight. I like Zameer, but man, I really wanted Paul to win. He'd been such a win streak. I love the story of him where he basically baits people in and gets these submissions. What did you think of the fight?
Right. Well, apparently Ozdemir's been paying attention to all that because he did not let Craig bait him in. Anytime Craig flopped to the ground or tried to pull a guard or something, Ozdemir created space, made him stand up. And he was just the superior fighter in the stand-up. He fought this very intelligently, and, he went on to win. It wasn't super exciting, but it was a win for him. So good on him. Bummer for Paul Craig to open up a European card with a loss like that.
Yeah. So somebody finally figured out Paul Craig's strategy, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you some potential opponents here, but we're going to circle back to Ozdemir. Molly Meatball McCann continues to put on a show on these cards. Defeats Hannah Gordy with a spinning back elbow. She actually tweeted to Rock, asked if it was all right if she uses the people's elbow. He's super cool and says, "You do it better than me anyway." It's way to go, Rock. Molly, good win. What do you think?
Yeah, Hannah Goldie had never been finished before, and so for Molly to be the first one to finish her, and in that fashion with the elbow again, which she had just gotten a finish with, that's great. And she seems like she loves fighting so much. She loves the crowd. She interacts with the crowd before, during, and after the fight. She was drinking a bunch of whiskey. She drank like half a bottle of whiskey during Patty's fight and shit. So she's great. I think that especially during those British cards where she really feeds off the crowd and hypes the crowd up, it just makes the card much better. So good on her. She's really dominating in flyweight currently. So I'm not sure who she's going to fight next, but she's looking great.
I actually, I had an idea. I was looking at the top 15 of women's flyweights because she's not technically in the top 15 yet. Mm-hmm. And I thought number 15, why not start right there? Amanda Ribas. Ribas is a tough talent, and they're all going to be tough in this division. But I think Molly, whether she wins that fight, I don't know, but she deserves a shot after her performances on these cards. She comes up big. I'd say why not just start there?
Yeah, I heard that she called out Antonia Shevchenko. So that, I think matchup-wise, that'd be a good fight as well. But Amanda, that's a tough fight. That'd be a very good matchup against Molly. I think we'd know where she's at if she fought Amanda.
What's up to producer Joe in the house, checking us out.
Joe.
I'm going to go right here to our next fight, which is Nikita Krylov, another fight that made me sad. Alexander Gustafsson. Krylov KO. First round, minute 7 seconds. Daniel Cormier said afterwards it's time for Gustafsson to hang it up. He said there's no disrespect to Gustafsson. He said those shots he took, though, he used to be able to take. The chin is gone. He can't do it anymore. Your thoughts? I know this didn't make you too happy either.
Yeah, I agree with DC as far as the shot that put Gustafsson down is not a shot that would have put him down a few years ago. But I think this is my bias talking, and I just want to see him not take so much time off. Yeah. It wasn't a super brutal knockout. I assume he has some sort of suspension, but if he doesn't want to retire, I think he needs to get back in the octagon as soon as possible. He can't be out for a year or two again and then try to get back in there. Maybe this is a ring rust issue.
Maybe
And
contract too. Maybe they can get him into like a Bellator where maybe they can give him some fights that he'd probably be capable of winning. And again, too, to your point, but maybe quick turnaround. We build up his confidence. We get some ring time in there, and maybe we get the Gustafsson of old. Possible. I'm not saying that's the case, but if you're going to do it, that might be the way to do it because obviously in the UFC, especially once you've reached his level, Krylov was probably about one of the easiest fights we could have got for him.
Right.
Krylov's no chump either. So it's like,
yeah, it's going to be tough for him going forward no matter what. So, but if he wants to keep doing it, I think he needs to get back in there as soon as possible.
All right. I said I'd circle back to Zameer earlier. That's because I thought this might be an interesting fight. Two light heavyweights coming off a win. Volkan Zameer versus Nikita Krylov. I think stylistically that could be a banger.
Yeah, that's a good matchup.
See what happens. I like Zameer too if they ever do fight. I just think he's a little more technical of the two.
Oh, see, I would go with Krylov because I think he has more tools.
Interesting. Well, I think Zameer's technically ahead of him in the ranking, so I'd like to see it. Maybe we'll see what happens. All right, one fight I did get to watch before I left. I managed to make it home in time, and I got to watch Paddy Pimblett.
How could you miss Paddy?
I couldn't believe it. Paddy Pimblett comes up with the victory. Another exciting fight too. There's a little bit of drama where he's, whether he's like on his back or taking some punishment, whatever the case would be. There's always seems to be a little drama in the Pimblett fights, but he gets the big victory over Jordan Levitt here. It's exciting, and since I don't want to rush him yet, too, we'll get your thoughts on the fight. I'd like to see us visit that fight against Tapira, I believe his name was, the one that he was going back and forth with last time, who ended up, they got into it. There's a little heat there, and maybe it's time to visit that fight now coming up.
As far as the Levitt fight, Paddy is a slow starter, it seems, and I think he definitely needs to get that sorted out if he wants to move up in these rankings. He's not going to get away with that for too much longer, I don't think.
Right.
But, when he does get going, he looks great. His grappling looked good. He did end round one on top of Jordan, even though he probably didn't win that first round. But the finish was great, where he put that body triangle on him and he trapped his right arm. When Jordan only had one arm to defend rear naked choke, it was all over that. He was never going to stop that. So good on Paddy for finishing him, gave him the little teabag at the end. And then, Jordan was respectful and gave him a thumbs up. And, it was all good after that. Shout out to Paddy for getting on the mic and shouting out his friend, RIP to his friend, who took his life shortly before that. And Paddy pushed through and got the win. So good for him. Ilia Topuria, I think, is a tough matchup. It is a good measuring stick to find out where Paddy is, though. And I think at this point, with the amount of eyes that he brings to the sport and to the UFC, I know, I don't want to push him too far, too fast either, but he's a main event fighter. Those people were there to see him in that arena. So they can give him somewhat favorable matchups and still he needs to be a main event going forward, I think.
Yeah, that's the thing. And so to cage my accused point in the comments here, Paddy step up in competition and basically not keep beating guys with one fights. I don't know. Let's see here. Another comment I want to get to. Topuria is rumored to be fighting Perez next.
That's a super tough fight for Topuria, I think, size-wise. And the striking difference, I think, that's a tough fight for Topuria.
Yeah. So, we'll see, but I'd get back to Paddy for a second, too, though. I think that's the thing, right? His popularity dictates that he's going to be a main event fighter, but is his skill level there yet? It's kind of hard to say. He looks good, but the competition he is facing obviously isn't the elite of the UFC yet. Right. So the more they can take the time with him, the better.
But he hasn't gone to decision either, so.
True. So it would be very interesting to see. And with a 5-round fight, it gives him a little time, assuming the cardio is good and he paces himself well. So we'll see.
And he doesn't get knocked out.
Right. Always important. All right, middleweight contender Jack Hermanson defeated Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis had some fun in the UFC, picked up a couple short notice wins. I think it was 3-0 going into this in the UFC, but Hermanson gets the decision and gets it done.
Yeah, Hermanson just fought a very intelligent fight, kept his distance. Chris couldn't get any offense going against him, ended up chasing him around the octagon. Clearly got frustrated. He was flipping him off and, teasing him after the fight. He went off on Twitter a bunch too. And he was clearly frustrated. So, he walked into a lot of things. And I think he needs to go back to the drawing board. But short notice fight against a tough opponent. I think overall he did okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, and it's just, Jack Hermanson's no joke. He's a tough customer.
Absolutely.
I was thinking of fights he hasn't fought. Like he lost to Sean Strickland before Jack Hermanson, and he's got wins over some of the top guys, losses of the top guys. One guy he hasn't fought is Paulo Costa, and Costa, assuming he's still going to be at middleweight. Obviously, he's big.
But he's fighting Luke Rockhold soon.
He is.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe even the winner or loser of that.
Yeah, maybe the loser of that one. That'd be a good matchup.
Yeah. But Paul Costa, I think, is an interesting one only because I feel like stylistically, Hermanson is good enough maybe to take him to the ground and actually probably submit him. I don't know. I mean, if Costa is a typical, he's got that great Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I've never seen it. He's always just knocking people out. So it would be very interesting. Whereas obviously, though, no matter who you're fighting, no matter who Costa's fighting, you're going to have to be leery of his power.
Right. I think, that grappling and his intelligence, he could wear Costa out because Costa does get tired. So yeah, I think that could be part of the game plan as well if that fight happens.
And then we got Curtis Blades versus Tom Aspinall. Disappointing main event again. TKO knee injury. Blades gets the victory. I'll let you talk about the fight. And as far as next opponent, I'll get you little thoughts on that too. I was thinking Cyril Gane. They've never fought yet, and they're two of the top contenders.
Yeah, so the fight was like 15 seconds, so we learned nothing at all from the fight. I know Tom was in a lot of pain. He threw a leg kick, and it landed on Curtis, and when he stepped back, something in his knee popped. I know I'm not a doctor, but I know a lot of times when guys tear ACLs, they, it's a pop and then you can still stand on it, but you lose stability. Well, Tom, he was in so much pain, it looked like he broke a bone or something. I have torn both of my MCLs in my knees, and it is different. It's the other side of the knees than the ACL. So those are super painful. Immediate pain. So I'm hearing that might be part of what he had. It was an MCL, maybe some meniscus tears, but luckily that would be a faster recovery time. Instead of a whole year, he'd be out, 6 to 8 months. So hopefully that's, not something that's going to hamper him going forward in his career as he's still young and, great prospect. As far as Blades, yeah, Tai Tuivasa and Gane are fighting. I think, I think that Blades needs to fight the winner, and the winner fights, the champion, depending on what's going on with Ngannou or John Jones and Stipe, whatever. Blades fights whoever wins this fight.
All right. Well, we shall see what the future holds for Tom and Curtis. Disappointing result, no matter how you look at it. A couple weeks in a row for UFC having these freak injuries too. Hopefully that won't be the case this weekend. UFC 277, Pena versus Nunes, longer-rated rematch. Randy Osga asking, does Pena win again this weekend? We're gonna talk about that pretty soon, Randy. Before we get into this main card, any preliminary fights you want to bring up?
Yeah, I'm a fan of Drakkar Klose. He's fighting Rafa Garcia. That's a good matchup. And then Alex Moreno's fighting Matthew Semmelsberger. That's a good matchup too.
Yeah, Alex Moreno.
Good prelims.
He's got wins over Mickey Gall, Cowboy Cerrone. Yeah, I gave a hell of a fight to Anthony Pettis. So he's been in there like with well-named fighters, maybe not at their prime, but people that have names like Moreno's been around. He's a tough customer.
Very tough, yeah.
All right, kicking off the card. Anthony Lionheart Smith versus Magomed Ankalaev. Anthony Smith is 30-16, 20 KOs, 14 subs, 2 decisions. He's had performance of the night 6 times and the 6th highest finish win percentage in UFC history. That's one thing about Smith. I don't know if he gets credit for, but this dude's a fucking finisher and a half.
Yep.
Now his opponent, Magomed here, he's 17-1, 9 KOs, 8 decisions. He's had performance of the night 3 times. That one loss is to Paul Craig, where he basically was a fight he was winning, and he got caught with a submission with 1 second left in the fight. He tapped out. This guy's basically undefeated. I don't think this is going to be much different, although I think Anthony Smith is always a stern test, and you never know. But I got to have Magomed here, and I'm going to say decision.
Yeah, Magomed is a Dagestani with no submissions wins. I mean, he has that one loss that you talked about. That was a submission. Obviously, his only loss. But I think that's funny. Doesn't mean he can't wrestle, because he absolutely can. But he is creative with his striking, powerful and creative. But, Anthony's been in there against the best of the best. Glover, John Jones, he's been in there versus everybody. I'm going to go with the unpopular opinion that he's going to pull through with his experience, and he's going to frustrate Magomed with his fight IQ. And I'm going to go with Anthony Smith by decision.
Interesting. I hope you're right. I like Anthony Smith. He's one of those good guys. I think he gets shit on sometimes because of his record and stuff like that. But he's always fought quality competition, and I always think he generally looks like he's improving a lot of times.
Right. He's been all over the world. This being talked about on his podcast that he does with Anthony Smith, that, Anthony Smith hasn't been there because he's been all over the world training for this fight. So, he's trying to improve wherever he can get it.
Quick sidebar. Michael Bisping's podcast. You a regular listener?
Not regular, but occasional.
You like it? So what you seen though?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love Bisping.
I might give it a listen. So that's why I was wondering. Okay. Yeah. All right. Alexander Parejo. I think I'm saying that right.
Pandoya, I think.
Pandoya? All right. Versus Alex Perez. Alexander Pandoya versus Alex Perez. Pandoya is 24-5, 8 KOs, 9 subs, 7 decision. Nice variety. Fight of the night 1 time, performance of the night twice, and Alex Perez 24-6. The record's almost identical. 5 KOs, 7 subs, 12 decisions, performance of the night twice.
Flyweights always have to be super well rounded, so that's why you always see a good mix of KO submissions and decisions.
I'm gonna let you go first on this one. Who do you think is winning this?
I think this is actually a very good matchup, pretty evenly matched between both guys. But I think ultimately Alex Perez's ground game, he can't outlast Pandoya on the ground. So I'm going to go with a 3rd round sub for Pandoya.
Oh, looks like Cage My IQ agrees with you. He says Pandoya by sub. Perez has put himself into bad situations at times. Okay. Well, since I'm not really sure, I'm just going to ride that train with you guys then, and I'll go with Pandoya as well. Decision. That takes us to our boy Derrick Lewis versus Sergei Pavlovich?
Pollovich.
Pavlovich is 15-1, 12 KOs, 3 decisions, performance of the night twice. Former Fight Night Global Heavyweight Champion. And Derrick Lewis, we know all about this guy. He's 26-9-1, 21 KOs, 1 sub. Derrick sub, 4 decisions. And Derrick has most knockouts in UFC history. So most knockouts in UFC history. So forget about the rest of that. This guy is performance of the night 4 times, fight of the night 3 times because he's had a lot of comebacks. He's never out. I feel like he's always usually not the most skilled fighter in the room, though. He ends up just that power. So does Derrick Lewis catch him with his power here?
So I think that Sergi is faster than Derrick, and he's technical enough to avoid Derrick's big shots, but land his own. Plus, Derrick doesn't have a very good. This fight is taking place in Dallas, and Derrick doesn't have a very good record in Texas, in his home state of Texas. So I'm gonna go with Pollovich by KO in round 2, and it hurts me to say that. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, and Cage My IQ too also jumping in here. I don't want to go against Lewis, but Sergi has an 8-inch reach advantage too. That's something I didn't know, and he can match Lewis's knockout power. Well, that's interesting to say. He can match out Derrick Lewis's knockout power. I mean, you never know. I mean, it's heavyweight, but boy, Lewis hits so hard. That being said, that 8-inch reach advantage is an game plan, and you take in consideration that Derrick does tend to freeze up in his home state. Yeah, I'll go with Sergi as well. I don't think Derrick's going to get finished in round 1, but I don't think his cardio will take him to round 3, so I'm going to agree with you. Round 2. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see if we can disagree on something here. This might be the fight. Brandon Moreno. I don't know if we're going to disagree completely. Maybe Howie gets it done, though. This is actually an interim flyweight championship fight, I believe. I don't actually have that in my list, but I believe that is. Against Kai Kara France. Kai Kara France is 24-9-1, 11 KOs, 3 subs, 10 decisions. Fight of the night twice, performance of the night twice. Moreno is a former flyweight champion. Fight of the night 2 times, performance of the night 3 times. He's 19-6-2, 3 KOs, 11 subs, 5 decisions. He's had some crazy wars with the champion, Ferguson.
Davison Figueiredo.
Thank you. Just all around wars. I like Brandon Moreno. I know we both do. Kai Kara France is on a roll right now too, though. It's an interesting fight. I think Moreno will get it done. I think this is going to go decision, though.
Yeah, this is an interim title fight. I looked it up while you were giving your take, but I'm super torn on this one. I think they're incredibly evenly matched. But I think the fact that Brandon already has a win over Kai Kara France is going to give him the confidence to go out there and, be the best Brandon Moreno that he can be. And when he is at his best, I don't think anyone in that division beats him. Unless, a Cejudo comes back or something like that. But currently, I don't think anyone at that division beats him. But I'm going to agree with you. I think this goes to decision, and I'm going to go with Brandon.
All right.
I would not be surprised if Kai won because it's so evenly matched, but I'm going to go with Brandon by decision.
All right. Cage My Q agrees with both of us. So we are agreeing. Let's see if we disagree on the final one. Amanda Nunes, 21-5, 13 KOs, 4 subs, 4 decisions. She's the former UFC bantamweight champion, 5 successful title defenses. She is the UFC women's featherweight champion still, actually. First woman in the UFC to win 2 titles. I mean, she's a legend. Yeah. Pena, 11-4, 3 KOs, 5 subs, 3 decisions. Not a lot of fight experience with you, but you forget she was on The Ultimate Fighter, which she won, by the way.
She won The Ultimate Fighter, yeah.
And she's the current bantamweight champion. And she pulled off one of the biggest upsets of all time in the last fight. Last fight, I was thinking about picking Pena, and I didn't because Nunes was such a beast. I regretted that. Good chance Nunes is probably going to win and get her belt back, but I'm not going to make that. I'm going to give Pena the credit I think she deserves, although it will be a completely different fight this time, I have a feeling. But I'm going to go with Pena. I'm going to say she grinds it out, and I think she's going to get another TKO win because I think the key to victory here is to tire out Nunes, and I think it will be to push her and to push that pace to where she wears down. So I'll say TKO round 4.
I think we're going to see a very good Julianna Pena because she's going to be hungry to prove that was not a fluke that she beat Amanda. She was confident she was going to win that fight all throughout fight week and leading up to the fight. But that being said, I think that Amanda learned a lesson that she is not invulnerable. And she may be the greatest women's fighter of all time, but she can't take these girls lightly. So I think you're going to see a hungrier Nunes. That bodes ill for Pena. I think you're going to see Amanda use a little bit more grappling, be much smarter in the fight, not just try to get into a firefight. And I think she ends up getting on top, and I'm going to go Nunes by ground and pound in round 2.
Okay. All right. So I think we go. This is good on the first one and the last one. Cage Mike, Nunes has cardio issues in 5-round fights and has to finish early to win. I think that's true to a point, but she did go to some decisions with Shevchenko later on. So
I think she's definitely fixed that. I mean, it's not as bad as it once was. It used to be a real issue. And I think she sorted it out for the most part.
But it didn't look like in the last fight, but I think that's something to do with how you train and pacing. So I don't think cardio is obviously her strong point, but I think going into it this time, I think she'll be fine. But I think, like, again, the reason why I'm picking Pena, I think Pena will push that pace, and I think she will expose that. But I don't know if it's the weak link as much as I think Pena is going to be really stylistically. I think she's a problem, and I think that's why she got the win the last time. But we'll find out. All right. Chevy, why don't you hit people what we got coming up one more time?
All right, August 6th, UFC Fight Night, Santos versus Hill. Probably preview Jake Paul's fight. And then August 13th, UFC Fight Night, Vera versus Cruz. And then the end of August 20th, we'll be previewing UFC 278, Usman versus Edwards 2. It's a great matchup. I'm excited for that one.
Absolutely. All right, guys. There'll be some fun fights coming up. Thanks for tuning in to the Combatcast.